interest of time. So my name is Tessa North. I am the Health Research Program Manager here at OCAST. I am also the OKGrants Manager. So any questions that you guys have about OKGrants or the Health Research Program or any of our programs today, tomorrow, over the next 3 years, feel free to contact me anytime. I am available to meet with you or talk to you or do a webinar or whatever we need to do to get you any help for anything that you might have as you apply for OCAST funding opportunities. So I want to thank all of you for being here this morning. OKGrants is a fairly new program. This will be the 2nd year that health has been run online through OKGrants. So we've made a few adjustments from the previous year. Hopefully there are things that are better for those of you who have experienced OKGrants before. But if at any point we're going through anything or you're going through it on your own and you find something that you think could be improved upon, please let us know. I think that's the thing that I want you guys to get most out of this. We really make this as user-friendly a system as we possibly can. So again, please don't hesitate to shoot any suggestions our way. We're happy to take them into consideration. Just a note about OKGrants. It isn't an OCAST-only system. It is a statewide system, so we are limited on what we can't do with the system. While we would like to be able to implement everything that we want, because we have to share with 8 other agencies right now and always growing, we can't always implement every change that we would like to. So that's why you might see some things that don't have to make a whole lot of sense for OCAST, but for another agency, they were really important. So we do ask you to keep that in mind. And again, just let us know if you see a better way, a different way to do something in this program. Everybody can see my screen, correct? And my mouse? Yes. On your, on the right side of my screen, there's like a menu that I can dock. You should have the opportunity to type in a message. So if you have a question or a comment or something that you would like to get across, please feel free to type that in. You can also unmute your phone and ask at any time. Please don't worry about interrupting. Ask your question as we come to it. I'm not going to ask anybody to wait till the end. So you can send a chat message. I will point out that there is an option to send your question to the entire audience or send it just to the presenter. So you can also send your question directly to an individual who's not me. So feel free to use that function from your GoToMeeting docking menu, whatever that thing is called, at any point. Again, you can also ask a question out loud anytime. So we're going to start first on the OCAST homepage. And just to give you guys a little bit of an idea, if you don't already know, about where to find OKGrants related stuff should you need it. From the OCAST homepage, we have 2 main things that you're going to look at for the health research program. Under the funding tab, you have an OKGrants section and a solicitation section. I'm sure all of you are already familiar with the solicitation section. That simply has your health research solicitation. So I'm sure most of you have this page bookmarked or have the solicitation printed off or something. But just in case you need to find that information, you can always find both OKGrants and solicitations from the funding tab on our website. From the solicitation section, you can also find a little bit of information about OKGrants and a link to the OKGrants section of the website. So looking at the OKGrants section of the funding area in our website, it's just a quick overview of the program. Again, it's telling you that it's a statewide program. So again, keep in mind that we can't make all changes that we might want to in a perfect world. Did my screen just go blank for anybody?
No, I can still see you.
Okay, it just went black for me. Okay, never mind, back up. Okay. On this OKGrants overview page, down at the bottom, they're not very easy to see, but there is a hyperlink to a quick reference guide. If you click that, it'll bring up a document that is 4 pages of information, and then just some FAQs about the OKGrants program. This is just a really quick reference. It's by no means the most thorough guide that we have, but for those of you who have maybe been in OKGrants, you played around a little bit, or you've applied before for another program, this would be probably the only document that you should need. So that is available on the website. Down here at the very bottom of the OKGrants overview. Again, that hyperlink doesn't stick out very well, but it is there. There is also a full link to the full user manual on the OKGrants website. So just wanted to show you a little bit about the OKGrants overview. Also on this page, there is a hyperlink, again, sort of hidden, to the OKGrants website. The one thing to remember about the OKGrants website is that it is a secure site. So you're either going to need to bookmark it to make sure that you get the HTTPS, or just you're always going to have to remember that. If you type in grants.ok.gov to your web browser, it will get you an error. So don't panic if you just type in the address and it brings up an error. Again, it's a secure site. So just want to point that out and make sure everybody remembers that. So that's pretty much the only information that you will need off of our website for OKGrants. Most of the information related to it is housed in the portal itself. One thing that I will point out is that the solicitation is not housed in OKGrants. So again, your solicitation is available as a PDF. We recommend that you guys have this bookmarked or you have it printed off or something so that you can reference it. The difference between the solicitation and any of the user manuals that you will find for OKGrants is that the solicitation deals specifically with the program for which you're applying. So this solicitation is going to have all of the guidelines and the requirements that are necessary for preparing a health application. You will not find that information in OKGrants itself. So do make sure that you reference the solicitation certainly as you're going through OKGrants. Any questions about where to find anything on the website? I think that most of you are probably all familiar with this. Easy enough to navigate. So we're going to go into the OKGrants website now. I'm in a demo site here, so we can mess with the data in this as much as we want. So for everybody else, you won't have this this web address, if you can even see that web address. So first things first, if you are an agency administrator, okay, there are 4 main roles in OKGrants. There's what we call an agency administrator, there's an authorized official, a financial officer, and a writer. Those are the 4 roles that you guys are going to use. And they are quite a bit different from the roles that you may be used to hearing from OCAST. An agency administrator is what we have always called a contract official. You guys might call it a research administrator. I think that's probably what most people would call it. But the administrator is, has the highest level of access in OKGrants. Again, this is going to be your research administrator in most cases if you're in a university. The authorized official is probably the squirreliest of all of the roles. That is the principal investigator. So that's the person who's actually going to be doing the research. So if you can just remember that the authorized official is being authorized by the administrator to do research, that might help keep it a little bit clearer. Again, this is a big area where we have some suggestions from clients about renaming things, but again, this is part of the whole statewide system thing, so we can't rename these roles. The financial officer is what we typically call the fiscal agent. This is the person to whom all payments are mailed. And then the writer can be any of a number of roles. Typically we see this used as a co-PI or an additional applicants organization. This role isn't utilized all that much, but it is an opportunity for somebody to add perhaps a grad assistant or any sort of assistant to a proposal so that they can simply write in the application. So we'll go through those roles a little bit as we go on, but I wanted to first point out that those are the 4 main roles. The reason that I want to point that out is because in order to apply for access to the system, only the agency administrator may click this registration link right here. If you are a PI and you have clicked this link, we will not approve you. We will only approve administrators to the system, and then administrators then approve their own PIs. The reason for that is that we don't want to accidentally approve somebody for, say, OU, and then come to find out later that that was just some kid off of the street that we applied or that we approved and allowed to initiate an application on the behalf of the University of Oklahoma. We've had that happen before, so it's best for all concerned if everybody just goes through their research administrator. So if you're a PI and you haven't yet gotten access to OKGrants, please contact whoever is your research admin and they can get you added. If you are an administrator, perhaps you're at a company or you don't know who your administrator is, give me a call, shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to help you get set up. If you are already registered and you can't remember your password or you've gotten locked out for any reason, an important thing to note is that OCAST cannot reset passwords. I do not have access to those, but you are welcome to click the Forgot Password link and you'll be sent to a page to unlock your account. You'll enter your username and your email address and a temporary password will be sent to you. That's probably one of the #1 questions that we get is, can you reset my password? I can, but it's a really easy process to get that done. So just wanted to point that out to you on the home page here. So we're going to go ahead and log in right now. I'm going to first log in as an authorized official, which is, again, a PI.
It's supposed to be over that way.
Okay. So this is the home page that you'll see when you log into OKGrants. A couple of things to note. This will say your name right here in this demo environment. My name is OCAST. So this will say welcome Joe or welcome whoever. And it'll also show your role right here. This is important to note. Many people, especially people who are applying from a company, will have multiple roles. So it's always important to know that this right here will show you which role you're logged in as. If you have multiple usernames, you're really going to want to pay attention to this right here. Because the role that you are logged in as really dictates what you can and can't do initially in the system. So from the home page here, there are a couple of things that you guys are going to want to know about. The first is My Profile. Up here in the right-hand corner, you can click on this link and you can change all of your information. Add your name, your address, any of that. When your research administrator sets you up for access to OKGrants, he or she is going to add this information for you. They may put in the main university mailing address. If you want to put in a different address and that's okay with your research admin, you can do so here. This information here at your profile is related only to you. So changing your address here will not change the address of your organization as a whole. So that's important to realize. You can sort of have 2 different addresses, an organizational address and a personal profile address. This is also where you can change your password at any time and your username as well. If you scroll down a little bit, this will also show you to what organization you are assigned. If you are with a university and a company, you may see multiple organizations down here. But in general, most of you will just see one. You can click on the organization and it'll give you some information about it. You can see the address, the main address for the organization. You can see everybody else from your organization who is in OKGrants. So if you want to see, who your research administrators might be, you'll go into here and you'll be able to see, this person is an agency administrator, so I know I can contact them with any questions I might have. Going back to my profile, any of this information you can change, like I said. The only other thing you might want to know, if If you want, you can add a picture of yourself to make it, I don't know, more personalized. So the My Profile page is pretty basic. Any regular information that you would expect to find right there. So I'm going to go back out to my home page. The other things that you're going to want to know about here, you have an inbox. This is going to show all of the messages that have been sent to you. Most people don't use this inbox. Anything that shows up in the inbox is also being sent to your Outlook or your Gmail or whatever email account it is that your profile is registered with. So you don't have to worry about logging in and checking a separate inbox in OKGrants. Anything that is of importance related to your application will be sent to you offline as well. But you do have this inbox here if you want. And then you have a My Tasks button. I'm going to show you this briefly. We'll come back to it in a little bit, but this basically shows you everything that you have in process that requires some sort of attention. So right now you can see here that I have 1 billion applications in process, and then I also have 2 requests for payment. So that's just a queue for things that you need to do. We'll come back to that, like I said, in a little bit. So those are the 3 opportunities or the 3 available buttons that you have. Sorry, those are 2 of the 3 available buttons that you have right here on your home page. The most important button that you guys are going to want to utilize is the View Available Opportunities. This is where you're going to find any opportunity for funding that you are eligible to apply for. So if I click this View Opportunities button, it just so happens that the first thing that comes up is the FY14 Health Research application. So some of you, probably many of you actually, have people in your organization who have registered for access to agencies other than OCAST. The Department of Commerce is a big funding organization or agency that other people may have applied for. So it is possible when you click on My Opportunities that you can see this OCAST opportunity, but you may also scroll down and see something for the Department of Commerce. This one, for instance, is offered by TSET. So don't worry if you see those other opportunities. It just means that your organization has requested access to those other agencies. So we are interested in applying for health research. So you can see here, this is going to give you the application availability date. These dates aren't correct. This is just, again, for the demo environment, so please don't worry about these right here. On the real site, this will show you, I think it was 2/10 is when it opened to 3/26. And then it will show you also the due date again, which is 3/26/14. There will be a description of the program for which you're applying, and there will be a link to the solicitation and a link to the program specifications in case you want to read about those. The specifications are basically the legislation under which the health research program is run. So if you have any questions about the program, you can view those documents from here within OKGrants. On the My Opportunities page for OCAST, you will only be able to see opportunities that are currently open. So if you logged in perhaps on February 1st looking for the health research application and you didn't see it on this page, that's because it wasn't open yet. So if ever you expect an opportunity to be open, a funding cycle to be open, and you don't see it here, give me a call or send me an email and we'll find out, maybe you're not set up correctly, or in most cases, the opportunity just hasn't opened yet. You can search if you want. Most people don't need to search because they don't have a whole lot of opportunities available for them. So that's just what you can expect to find on this page. These are the funding opportunities that are available. So I want to apply for the health research program. So I click the Apply Now button. The first thing that we're going to come to is an agreement page. This page is basically serving as sort of your electronic signature that you are, in fact, eligible to apply for the health research program. Every one of OCAST programs will have one of these agreement pages. The page is going to tell you what sort of organizations are eligible to apply, and then also what sort of individuals are eligible to apply. If you read through this information and you meet the requirements, you click the I agree button, and that is serving as your signature to OCAST. So if for whatever reason, you don't meet one of these requirements, say you aren't a resident yet, and you don't intend to become a resident of Oklahoma, you would click I do not agree and move on. Again, if you have any questions about your eligibility, please give me a call. For the most part, though, I think everybody agrees, and then you're able to click I agree, and you can start applying. Okay, so I agreed to all of the eligibility requirements, and I've clicked I agree. So now I have officially started my health research application. I want to point out a couple of things about this menu that we're brought to here. First of all, we have a project number that's automatically been generated here. For this particular project, we have HR 14025. As soon as you see a project number that has been generated, it's important that you realize that your research administrator has been notified that this project has been initiated. In the past, you used to have to submit a statement of intent to OCAST. That was basically reserving a project number for you. So you would send in a paper statement of intent, and then I would send you a project number. We've done away with the statements of intent, so now once you click the I agree button, that's sort of serving that purpose. So you automatically get a project number generated, and most importantly, like I said, your administrator knows that you're starting an application. You can also see when you come to this menu, this area should be collapsed right here. If you click on this details link, it'll open up this info box right here, and it'll give you a little bit more information about your project or your application that you are working on. It'll show you that you're working on an OCAST application, the organization under which you're applying, your current role that you're logged in as, and the status of the application. This status is really important. I'm going to come back to this several times, but what I want you to know is that at any point in your application, you can click this details link under your project number, and you'll be able to see what status your application is in. We're currently in application in process. So that means that the application is open to you, it's open to your administrator. OCAST doesn't have it yet. Nothing has been submitted. So I just want to point that out, that we're going to come back to the status often, and you can always check that from details. So we're logged in right here as an authorized official, which you can see. One thing that is important to notice or to realize about this program is that only authorized officials, that is only PIs, can initiate an application. So if you are logged in as a research administrator, an agency administrator, you will not have the opportunities button. You will not be able to see the current funding opportunities. You will not be able to click the I agree button to start an application. You must be logged in as an authorized official in order to start an application. If you are logged in and you don't see My Opportunities, I always encourage you to go back out to the home page and check where under your name and see if it says that you're logged in as an agency administrator or an authorized official or any other role. Only authorized officials can start an application. Okay, so we have begun our application. We have a couple of different buttons down here. You probably won't use a lot of them, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what is available under each button. We're going to start from the bottom with the View Related Items. There's not going to be anything here yet. If you click that and there is something there, let me know. The related items are all things that are going to come around after your project has been awarded. These will be things that are related to your contract. So RFPs or progress report information, all of that will be housed here under related items. So don't worry if you click on the related items and don't see anything there. I'm going to go back to the home page. The Access Management tool has a few things that you guys might use. First, you can create a full print version of your application. I don't encourage you to do this until the very end, if you need to do it at all, but you do have the opportunity to create a PDF of your application that you've completed. If for any reason you want to create a blank version of your application before you start, you're welcome to do so on this second link. I'm not sure why that might be helpful. If you wanted to print it off and maybe pencil in some of your information beforehand, you can use that function for that. What you guys may use is adding and editing people. We'll come back to this more at the end, but this is where you can see who is currently added to your application, and you can also add other people if you wish. So once you initiated your application, you obviously were automatically added to it. And I mentioned that your administrator was also notified that you had started an application. So in order for your administrator to be notified, that means that they were also automatically added to the application. So you can see here, here's me as the PI, and here's my administrator, OCAST.AA. And you can see the role right here. So those are the people who are already on my application. Nobody else yet, no writers or financial officers or anything like that. That was under the add and edit people. So that's something that you may use. You can also view the status history of OKGrants. Currently, we haven't done anything other than begin our application, so we're still in application in process. You guys, you can use the check for errors button here. It's going to check your entire application for errors. You also have as we go through the application, you'll see an error check button up in the top right corner. So you probably won't use this. You won't use this modification history button, and we won't have anything yet. And you guys actually don't have access, shouldn't have access to this attachment repository yet. So those are the items that are under management tools. You probably won't use it all that often, but if you do use this, click on this management tools button. The print version and the adding and editing people are the most commonly used functions here. So I'm going to go back to my home page for the application. So in order to go back to the main screen for your application, at any point you can click the project number right here under next to document information, and it'll take you to the main landing page for your application. We are not going to look at the change the status button yet. That comes at the very end. So we'll talk about that at the end of the webinar. So the most important button that you guys are going to want to know about is the view forms, the very first button here. If you click this, it's going to take you into the application. These are all of the forms that need to be filled out in order to submit. If you are familiar with past OCAST funding cycles, you will recall that you had to fill out the solicitation, the forms that were in the solicitation in the PDF form. So you had probably 14 pages of forms that you filled out, and you submitted that in hard copy and also on a CD to us. Now the forms are in OKGrants. So what we've done is we've broken up each form to a page on OKGrants. So they should be very similar to what you may be used to from the paper version of the solicitation. So I'm going to go through these forms for you and show you what information we're looking for. First, actually, I want to point out one thing here. We've got 3 different sections separated by these gray lines right here. As we go through, you'll see a couple more sections will open up, but we've broken up the application into these sections so that you guys can sort of work on one area at a time. So we have an application section. This is the bulk of the forms that you're going to have to fill out, and then we'll also have budget sections. I want to point out right now there's only one budget year available. I'll show you how that changes as we go on. But at the very least, you have to request 1 year of funding from OCAST. Otherwise, what are you applying for? So that's why you only see one right now, one budget year anyway. So the first page in the application section is the Principal Investigator Information page. This page is basically just requiring information about the PI. For those of you who may have applied before, and for research administrators who are already familiar with OKGrants, I want to point out that this page is new. I'm sorry, the format of this page is new. Last year, all you had to do was open this page and save it, and the information would automatically populate based upon whoever was logged in. The information pulled in from their profile. Now we've enabled all text fields so that if the research administrator wants to fill out this page, he or she can log in and fill out this page on behalf of the PI. So basically, anybody can fill this out and save it. It doesn't have to be the PI who saves this page. You'll just, basic information here, you'll put in the name of the PI, fill out everything that is required. It's marked with an asterisk, and click Save. One thing that I want to point out is that this right here in red still reflects the old deadline. The new deadline, the fix should push to the website in about an hour. So the new deadline is March 26th. So don't panic if you've already started working on this and you see that your deadline is showing up as a week earlier than what you expected. So we are going to fill out this page. I'm going to go ahead and just use information that I'd already typed in. And once I've filled out all of my information, I click Save. And then if you scroll down here, you can see that you were the first person to modify this page or create this page. So if your research administrator had started this page for you and saved it, you would see, his or her name here. It would say OCAST.AA. So this is just a good way to track who might have started working on your application for you. In most instances, it's going to be all the PI's name on these created by and modified by fields. But if you have, say, an assistant or somebody who's going to be helping you, this is a good way to track who last modified what. So I just want to point out that that's available for you. So we've saved this page. If you want, you can create a print version of this page. It'll create a PDF of it. You can do that from within every page, or you can do it again from the management tool. So I filled out this page. I'm ready to go on to the next one. I can go to the next page from one of two ways. The easiest way is to scroll down here to the bottom, and I can see the next page in the application section, which is project information. Or I can follow these breadcrumbs out here at the top and go back to the Forms menu and get to all of the sections. So I'm going to go to the project information page from out here. And then I just want to point out again that if I scroll down, I only have access to the pages in the section in which I'm working. So again, only the application section. So two different ways you can navigate two pages. Most people, I believe, do work in section chunks. So you might work with all these perhaps easier pages first and then go back and do your budget pages separately. So just want to point out, if you can't navigate to your budget pages from here, don't panic. You can get to your budget pages from the main Forms menu. So this page is just all your basic project information. We're going to fill out this information here. And then I want to point out that there are error checks built into these pages. So two things to check here. As I mentioned, anything with a red asterisk is a required field. So I'm going to show you what happens when we save a page without a required field. And then I'm also going to show you how the budget fields have built-in error checks as well. So I've left research area blank down here. It is a required field. I've forgotten to fill it out or whatever. So I'm going to click Save, and I should get 2 errors up here. Exactly. So 2 errors have shown up here. First one is telling me that my budget numbers are wrong. I've inadvertently typed in $450,000. So OKGrants has built-in error checks to prevent people from requesting incorrect budget amounts. In the past, we had no error checks built in on our PDF forms, so it was very easy to accidentally request, 10 times as much money as was allowed. That causes a lot of problems because it's very difficult for the reviewers to figure out what's going on if somebody requests, $50,000 instead of $45,000 that they're allowed. So the reviewers then have to figure out, where to cut $5,000, or should we just nix the project altogether? So these error checks with the budget, I think, have been really helpful on OCAST, and we hope it's been helpful on certainly the research administrators end, but I know on our end it's been very useful. So just wanted to point that out, that all of your math will be checked as you go along, and everything is checked also against requirements that OCAST has internally. So I see my error check. Easy to fix this. I'm going to change that to 45,000, and then I'm also got a note that my research area is required, so I'm going to select a research area, resave the page, and my errors are going to go away. And I get a green light, so I'm good to go. And you can see I've saved the page originally, and then I modified it after I fixed my errors here. Okay, so if you remember when we first logged onto got onto the Forms menu, there was only one budget section that showed up, Year 1 budget. I'm going to go back. I've entered, however, 2 years worth of budget requests. So I'm going to go back out to the Forms menu, and I now have a Year 2 budget. So, like I said, you will initially see only a Year 1 because you're required to request at least 1 year of funding. But as you fill out the project information page and request subsequent years of funding, you will see budget pages that correspond to those. So I'm not going to go through each of these sites or each of these pages, but I do want to point out something on this performance sites and compliance page. This is oops, that was the wrong page. On the contract official page, this is a new field that has been added. So research administrators, this is something that you guys will want to make note of. It's not a big change, but we have requested that we get the name and the address of the person to whom payment will be mailed. So not a big change. This is just something that helps OCAST on the back end as we prepare your contract. So that's one new thing. Again, this is generally only applies to the contract official. So on this page, it's called the contract official page, but that doesn't necessarily mean that only the contract official can fill it out. While you should probably check with your contract official before you fill out any application pages, OCAST doesn't have any business rules in place that would prevent an authorized official from filling out this page. So you are welcome to type in any information as a PI on this page. You can save it, but please be aware that it is technically your contract official's page, so he or she may go through and completely change anything that you did. So just wanted to let you know about that. On the abstract page, important thing to note here, OKGrants recognizes the tilde, the little squiggly line that is often used to signify approximately. OKGrants recognizes that as a break. So we put a note on here, please do not include tildes in your abstract. Anything that comes after the tilde will be truncated. So every year we get so many abstracts that include lots and lots of text, a tilde, and then nothing else afterwards. So I do want to point that out. Please make sure that you don't include those. Fill out approximately if you do need to use that in your application. There are 5 keywords that you are required to put in here. We do request keywords, not necessarily key sentences or key paragraphs. However, there is no limitation on these fields. So what we're looking for in these fields, something that we can easily search by in case we get a request. Say somebody requests to know what we funded regarding pancreatic cancer. So anything that you think the public might be interested in searching for in regards to your proposal, that would be something that you would include in these keyword fields. I've gotten a question about the agency administrator. Just want to remind everybody that the agency administrator is, again, the contract official. Sorry if I keep reverting or switching back and forth between the two. When I say agency administrator, I do mean contract official. And then the last page in the application section is the required attachment. Before we go to the required attachments page, though, I want to point out that I've gotten this notification here. If you remember, I had typed in a tilde here in this abstract box, and then I deleted it. So I made a change to this page, but I tried to navigate away to the required attachments page without clicking Save up here at the top. When that happens, if you ever try to leave a page without making a save, you will be prompted before you navigate away. So just want to point that out. You shouldn't be able to navigate away from a page without saving it unless you just close out of the browser completely. So there is that check in place. Hopefully nobody loses any data because of this. I'm going to go ahead and go away from my page here. The required attachments page. We'll come back to this in a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it briefly. This is where you will upload all of your narrative documents. So the bulk of your application is actually contained within your research plan and the required documents that go along with it. All of that is prepared offline in Word or whatever other format, and it's uploaded into OKGrants. So we're not asking you to sit here and type your 7, 8, 9-page research plan directly into OKGrants. You can do that offline and then save it and add it to the system here. One thing to point out is that there is a 20 megabyte limit on this page per save. So if your research plan is 20 megabytes, what you're going to want to do is upload that and save the page. You're not going to want to add your 20 meg research plan and then your 5 meg additional required attachments and save the page. You will get an error. So just keep that in mind. If your files are larger, please upload them and save them one at a time. There are no requirements that I have run across, or I suppose limitations that I have run across in regards to what sort of file you can upload. You can upload Word documents or Excel files or PDFs or whatever you want. So feel free to use whatever format you prefer, and you can upload that anyway. If at any time you try to upload a document and you get an error, let me know, because you would be the first one who wasn't able to upload a certain type of file. On this page, both the research plan and the required attachments are required, so if you try to submit your application without either of these, you will get an error. So I mentioned earlier that the solicitation details all of the requirements for the information that is required for the application. This particular page is where the solicitation is going to be necessary. You see here in the instructions, we're not telling you what is involved in the research plan or what is involved in the additional required attachments. All of that information is housed within the solicitation. So you'll want to refer to your solicitation, which again is offline from OKGrants, and you'll prepare all of this information, again, offline from OKGrants. So make sure that you have your solicitation bookmarked. If you have any questions about your research plan or what we're looking for in the required attachments, the solicitation is the first place you're going to check, not in OKGrants. So that's the application section. I'm going to go back out to the forms menu because I want to look at the budget sections next. I have a question about the abstract here. I'm going to go back to the abstract really quickly. The abstract does have a character limit. You'll see right here, 3,000. That is all characters, including spaces. So please be mindful of that. The box will cut you off when you get to 3,000. That was an excellent question. So going back out to my forms menu, I'm going to look at the budget page next. If you'll remember on the project information page, I requested $45,000 for year 1 and year 2 and nothing for year 3. So back out on my forms menu, I have a year 1 and a year 2 budget page. Again, no year 3 budget page. So I've opened up my budget page, and hopefully what you see when you open this is that it looks awfully similar to the budget page that you're used to seeing in our solicitation on the paper form. We haven't done anything different here except that we've added in the benefit of automatic calculations. When you first log in, you're going to see there appears to be this blank column over here. This is where your calculations are going to come up, and I'll show you those in just 1 second. So these fields, as I mentioned, are the same as on the paper form. You'll just fill out whatever information you want in each of these fields. One thing to keep in mind is that if you fill out any particular box on one of these rows, you are required to fill out every box. So if I were to put in the PI on this row, and then if you're familiar with the solicitation, you know the PI can't take any salary. So I just leave salary and fringe blank, and I try to save the page. I'm going to get a bunch of errors first, but I'm going to get an error telling me that I need to fill out everything on the row. So here, if a name is entered on row 1, the entire row must be completed. So just want you to be aware of that. You do have to fill out, if you fill out one thing, you have to fill out the entire row. So I'm going to save that, and you'll see that error will go away. Okay, so a couple of things I want to point out now. I've filled out one item here, or one row here, and my calculations have automatically tabulated. So again, that's not something that you have to worry about as you're filling out the budget. Hopefully this makes life a little bit easier. Again, it makes it easier for OCAST. We are being assured that the budgets that you guys submit, everything adds up, everything makes sense, and nothing is being requested that's not allowed in terms of amounts that aren't allowed. One cool thing about this personnel section is that you see 7 rows right here. But what happens if you have 10 people working on your project? If you come down to the last row and you type in a name and you click Save, you're going to get another row below this. So this is a repeating section. So you will always have a blank row at the end of your personnel section. So if you want to add 10 people, 20 people, 300 people, you're welcome to do so. On the paper application forms, you used to have to create a spreadsheet and attach it to the back of your budget page, or copy a budget page and write out page numbers, and you just had to get really creative with how to add extra people. So you do be advised that you can add as many people as you want to your personnel with OKGrants. We have one other budget page built in here. For the travel section, you are not, if you can sell, you are not allowed to request more than $1,000. Again, this is not a change from the previous OCAST budget pages, but it is a check that's built in. So I requested $1,500. I'm going to get an error telling me that I'm over the travel allowance once I save the page. So I just go in and change that, easy enough, save the page, that error is going to go away. Okay, so say I filled out my budget page and I think I'm done. If I scroll back up to the top, I see that I have 2 errors here. The first one is a general OCAST error. Your solicitation will tell you that the budget requirements dictate that you must request $10,000, at least $10,000, but no more than $45,000 per year. So with what I've entered here into my budget page so far, I'm only at $3,020. So the OKGrants does have a check built in telling me that I must request at least $10,000. So that's my first error. Easy fix, I'm just not done with my budget yet. The other error is perhaps the more helpful of the errors that you might get. Say I have entered all of my information in the budget, into my budget page. I think I'm done, and I've requested more than $10,000. OKGrants is going to check to make sure that what you have added on your budget page totals the amount that you initially requested on your project information page. So again, we're on the year 1 budget right here. If I scroll down, remind you, we're at $3,000. If I go back out to my forms menu and I go to my project information page, you'll recall that I requested $45,000. So one of two things needs to happen here. Either I need to revise the amount that I requested on my project information page to match my budget page, or I need to go back into my budget and revise it to match my project information page. It doesn't matter to OCAST what you do. We just are checking that everything matches up. It's been a common occurrence that people would request $45,000 on their budget page or on their project information page, but then would only end up requesting, $20,000 in supplies or salary for technicians or something like that. And then we had a real problem on our hands. We had to approve the amount that was requested on the budget because that was what was shown, via line items. So you're basically leaving, $25,000 on the table, even though that's what you initially requested. So that check is built into place. It helps both us and you guys to assure that we get the correct, most thorough budget possible. Going back out to my forms menu, one other thing to point out on the budget pages, if we scroll down a little bit, there's a contractual services page or field. If you recall on the paper forms that you used to fill out, there was a budget page for each year, and there was also a contractual services page that was automatically included. On our budget section, there is only, if you recall, the year 1 budget page to fill out. However, if you request contractual services in excess of $2,500 and you save the page, you're going to get a new page to fill out. Just as with the paper application form, if you request over $2,500 in contractual services, you are required to detail what those services are going to entail. So I requested $3,000 here on the contractual services line item. I'm now required to fill out this page to go with it. And this looks just like the regular budget page. You'll fill out what it is that you're going to be paying contractors for. If it's all, a salary or their fee, you'll include that, or travel or whatever. Just want to point that out, that you will be required to fill out this additional page if you request over the contractual services threshold on the main budget page. Go back out to my forms menu. I'm not going to go through filling out all of these pages because I'm pretty sure that everybody knows how to do that. Are there any specific questions about these pages before I log into a more complete application? Remember, your phones may be on mute, so feel free to unmute and ask any questions if you have any. I'm going to log out really quickly and go to an application that I have already created. Okay, so this is a good example of another way that, or another thing that OKGrants can do. So say I was working on my application and I saved it, and 3 days later I've come back and I'm ready to work on it some more. I've logged in again, and I want to know what's the easiest way to get back to my application to continue working on it. The easiest way to do that is from the My Tasks menu. If you remember, we looked at that at the very beginning. There were several tasks open in the demo login that I was using. But in this one here, it's really easy to see how this is useful. Again, I'm logged in as the authorized official, that is the PI, and I want to get to my application. I can open up my task, and here is my application. You see that it's in process, so I know that it's the one that I last left off on. So if I want to go to that application and continue working on it, I simply click on the project number, and I'm brought back to my forms menu. Here I can pick up where I left off. One thing to know is that at any point you can save a page that you've worked on. You can log out and you can log back in days, weeks, months later, and it will still be saved for you. Again, if you try to navigate away from a page without saving, you will be prompted to save it. So hopefully nobody should ever lose any data. So I'm logged in as the PI. I filled out all of my pages. You can see I've created them. I've gone back in and I've modified some. But say I'm going out of town and I want my postdoc to help me with filling out my application. How do I give somebody access to my application? In order to do that, I'm going to go back out to my main menu by clicking my project number. And I'm going to go back to the management tools. If you'll recall, we looked at this briefly in the beginning, and there was an add, edit, people function. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to figure out who I want to add to my application. At the beginning, I mentioned the 4 user roles, one of which was the writer. The writer has the ability to basically just write. They can save forms that they can edit, but they cannot initiate or submit an application. So that's a good thing to remember. Feel free to give somebody access to your proposal as a writer, but rest assured they cannot submit based on that role. So I have identified that I want to add somebody to work on my project while I'm away, and apparently I'm not even in the system. And that one is probably not either. Okay, so I'm searching for the person's last name. You can search for their first name, search however you want for them. I find the person that I've been looking for, check the box next to their name, and then here I can select their role. I'm going to add, like I said, her as a writer. This is going to be today's date. That's the date you added them. And I'm going to save it. That will automatically add her to my application. So if I scroll down now, originally there were just these 3 people on the application. Now you can see that the writer is added. So what that means is I can contact Linda and tell her, you have access to my application now. Please go in and fill out such and such page for me and save it. Again, that gives her access to help you in whatever way possible. But again, she cannot submit on your behalf. So that's a helpful tool. You can do this as the PI. You can add a writer. Your research administrator can also add a writer.
Yes, the research administrator is added by default, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And actually, that's something that I should have mentioned. Most universities have multiple research administrators. So if you are logging in as a PI and you are submitting and you're starting an application, this is a good example right here, what we're looking at. You're starting an application. If you are to look at your application and you see multiple administrators on here, that's just the way your organization is set up. OSU has something like, I don't know, 17, 20 research administrators. So those people are automatically all going to be added. Even though you personally may deal one-on-one with only one person, you will see that all of them are automatically added. Okay, so I've added my writer. I'm going to go back out to my application now. I just wanted to show you guys how to do that. If the writer were to log in and work on the application, he or she would navigate to it the same way via the My Tasks button. I'm going to go back to my Forms menu. We have filled out all of our forms, and we are ready to submit, or so we think. The last section that you will see on your application menu is called the Project Assurances section. One thing that you will note is that there is some wording here. Do not complete this section until you are ready to submit your application. This section is at the bottom of all of the forms because we intend for it to be the very last section that is filled out. This is probably the most important thing to realize about OKGrants. So while we allow only PIs to initiate an application, the contract official, that is the administrator, the agency administrator, must be the last person to touch the application. So that helps to ensure that a PI doesn't try to go rogue and submit something that the university is against or doesn't support or doesn't have money for or whatever. By requiring that the contract official is the last person to touch the application, that basically takes the place of the signature that used to be required on the hard copies. The university has to, or the organization has to sign off on an application in order to obligate funds on behalf of the organization. So it's very, very important that we realize that the contract official has to be the last person to touch it. This is probably the #1 thing that trips up applicants when working in OKGrants. Can't say it enough times. Agency administrator, last person to work on the application. So I'm the PI, and I've done all of my part. I'm going to go in and basically say, this is out of my hands. I'm done. I'm ready for it to be submitted. I'm going to open up the Project Assurances Principal Investigator page. Here is where we're taking your electronic signature. If you recall the paper copy of the application forms that you used to fill out, you were required to sign those forms. Certainly you can't sign the computer screen and send that to us. So by clicking yes on this page, after you read all of these instructions or all of these attestations, by clicking yes, this is serving as your electronic signature. If you click yes on this page and save it and submit your application, and we find that something that you've done something that you said you wouldn't hear, or your project doesn't fit the agreement or the eligibility requirements after you've submitted it, then we will send your application back to you, and it will not go to review or it will not go to contract. So this page is very important. Like I said, this is sort of your signature on the entire application. So as a PI, I'm logging in, I'm reading this information. I agree with everything it says here. I'm not going to contact the reviewers and try to bribe them or anything like that. I click the yes button, and I see that it's blank right here next to Principal Investigator. Once I save this page, my name is going to pull in down here. So you can see this is my signature. I've saved this page. That means that when Tessa logs in or the reviewer logs in to take a look at my application, I can see right here that this PI signed this page. This PI agrees that this application is ready to be reviewed. Once I sign this page electronically, I'm going to contact my research administrator and let him or her know that I am done and ready for their approval. Currently, there isn't something already, there is an automatic notification in place that will send an email or ping the administrator to let them know that this page is signed. So once you as the PI do sign off on this page, you will have to contact your administrator offline somehow to let them know that they need to work on their part. One thing to note is that once you click I agree and save this page, or once you click yes and save this page, any changes that you might make on any of the other forms will require that you go back in and resave this page. So that's why we put this down here as the very last section, and we put this note that we don't want you to complete this until you're absolutely certain that you're done. Any changes that are made will require these pages to be resaved. So that's another thing that trips people up sometimes. You can kind of get into a loop of having errors again and again if you go in and save your page and then make a budget adjustment, or you open up another page. So we just ask that you keep this in mind. Please don't even bother opening these until you're absolutely certain that you're done. So I've saved my pages, I've uploaded all my required attachments, and I am ready for submission. I'm going to log out to show you guys how to submit. I'm going to log in now as an agency administrator. If I can remember my password ever. So I've let my administrator know, and my administrator has logged in and is looking at my application. If you'll notice, administrators have 58 new tasks. So administrators typically will have a lot more tasks than you as a PI do. And that, again, is because they are automatically added to every application for their organization. So your administrator will log in and will search for your application, which was 24. They'll open it up, and they'll review all of your forms that you've filled out. They want to, make a change to a contract official page, and they can go in and they can resave this page to whatever they like. And you as the PI will be able to then see, they made a change on this page. So your research administrator looks at all of your forms, agrees everything looks great, checks your budget pages. When he or she is confident that your application is ready to be submitted on behalf of your organization, they will log in, and they have their own contract official project assurances page. Click yes, click save. Their name is going to show up down here next to contract official, indicating that they have signed the page. We see that it has been saved here. They can then go ahead and submit. Perhaps one of the most important things that you can realize about, you can remember about OKGrants is that your application is not submitted until your status has been changed and your status up here in the details shows application submitted. So you as the PI have clicked yes that you sign off on this project. Your contract official has clicked yes. You're done, right? Not so fast. Contract official will then go and submit the application. Here we've got two statuses. We can submit the application, we can cancel the application. Again, not submitted yet. So remember these status buttons. I'm going to show you another way to access this. I'm going to go back out to my main application menu. We didn't look at this initially, but here's the status options button. If you click this, this is going to take you to the status options that you have. Again, the submitted or the canceled. So the very last step in applying for OCAST funding will be to apply the application submitted status. I click that, my status changes to application submitted. So I can check right there. I know that I'm done, that OCAST has my application, that I've met all of the budgetary rules, and that I've uploaded everything that needs to be uploaded. I will also get an email both in my inbox in OKGrants and my offline email box. Here is a copy of the email, actually, right here. So this email comes to me, to Tessa, to let me know that you have submitted an application. Your research, there's the email, sorry. Your research administrator will get this email, and you as a PI will get that email. If you change the status of your application to application submitted and you don't get an email, or your research administrator doesn't get an email, please contact me as soon as you can. That either means that something didn't go through in terms of your submission, or hopefully, or not hopefully, but the lesser of two evils is that there was just a glitch with the email that got sent out. So please keep in mind that you have multiple ways to check for your application being submitted. Here via the details in the status, or with the email that you got or your contract official got. If in doubt, please feel free to contact me anytime, and I'm happy to check the progress of your application, whether it was submitted or not. We can always do any sort of troubleshooting with the email or anything after the fact. The most important thing is to make sure that you are certain that it got submitted before the deadline. So the deadline, as I neglected to mention, but it's actually really important to know, the deadline is March 26th at 5 o'clock. OKGrants will automatically shut down all funding opportunities for, or this funding opportunity at 5 o'clock on the deadline. That's 5 o'clock Oklahoma City time. So if you are in Colorado or something and hope to have some extra time to work on it, please be advised that it is 5 o'clock Oklahoma City time. The system, like I said, will automatically shut down the application form. This is great for us. We don't have to, stand at the door and look sad as you come rushing up at 5 o'clock and it's automatically locked. So it's a plus for everybody, I think. Hopefully it's easy for you guys to get these things in time. And like I said, please contact me if you have any questions about whether or not your application was submitted. Once your application is submitted, you still have access to view it. You can view your application from the My Applications menu. I'm going to show you how to find it. It's not perhaps the most user-friendly of navigation tools, but you can find an application once it has been submitted. So this is from your home screen. I'm logged in again as an administrator, but please know that the process for finding your application is the exact same for a PI. So I go up here to My Applications, and this information, these search fields will probably be populated with whatever it was that you last searched for. If you haven't searched for anything, then all will be blank. What I generally recommend when searching for your application is to clear out all your search criteria. In these particular fields, unfortunately, less is more in terms of finding applications. These fields are a little bit squirrely. The easiest thing to do to find your application is to type in all or part of your project number. This application name field is misleading. We're not looking for your project title. What we're looking for is the actual project number. Unfortunately, this is what they call a core function, so we can't change this to say project title. So if you can just remember that application name is project title or project number, that'll go a long way in helping you find your applications once you've submitted them. So the application that we just submitted was 024, so I can type in HR 14 024, or I can just type in 24, and that brings up my application. So you see my search results down here. If I click my project number, I can go into my view my forms, and here I can see all the forms that I filled out. I can open up any of the individual forms. It looks like I can go in and I can type whatever I want, but I don't have a save button up here in the right side of my screen. So while you may get excited and think, oh, I can go in and change everything, you can't actually. So please be advised that once an application is submitted, it is submitted, and that's the way it's going to review. You cannot make any changes, and we can't accept any additional documents after an application is submitted. So that's how you can find an application. Again, My Applications, project number, here where it says application name. If that throws you for a loop and you can't remember it, you can also search by all of these other filters. You can pick FY14 Health Research. If you know that your application was submitted, you can select Applications Submitted, and you can search by that, and it'll pull up all of your applications that were submitted. Again, since I'm logged in as a research administrator, this is going to show all of the applications for my organization that have been filled out. But if I were logged in just as the PI and I searched for applications submitted, I would only see the application that I had submitted. So as a PI, you cannot see other people's applications from your organization. So the application, once it's submitted, like I said, it is done. You don't have any options to change the status to say cancel the application after it's been submitted. But what if you realize that you left something off your application, or the PI has left the organization and the administrator wants to cancel it? If either of those are the case, or just for whatever reason you want to make a change to your application, please contact me, and what we will do is cancel the application. Unfortunately, you will have to start all over again, but that's, if you've got time to do that, hopefully it'll be old hat by the second go-round, and it shouldn't take you too long to fill out a new application. So just keep in mind that you cannot re-edit an application or edit an application that once it's been submitted, but we can cancel it at any time if that's necessary for you. One thing that is pesky about OKGrants that we have not yet been able to address is that there is no built-in spell check. So if you recall, I think these pages are filled out correctly, but like even if you saw that I'll get the little squiggly underline here to tell me to auto check or to spell check, but the system itself won't do it. So if your browser doesn't automatically do that, that's something that you're going to have to be aware of. That is something that we've asked the developers to maybe incorporate, but they haven't been able to do that yet. I do recognize, especially in the abstract, that that is troublesome. So, you know, in something like the abstract where you want to make sure that everything is spelled correctly, you might consider doing that offline in Word and then pasting it into OKGrants. Certainly not a requirement, and you're not going to be kicked out for misspelled words or anything like that. But best foot forward for the reviewers. So you might want to take that into consideration. We do realize that that is a problem. Unfortunately, it hasn't been able to be implemented yet. Let's see. What other questions do you guys have? As far as the actual forms, I hope that they're pretty straightforward and easy to fill out. Again, we haven't done anything different from what you would expect to see in the paper version of the application. So hopefully it's a pretty easy process. The bulk of the information is filled out offline, again, in your attachments, your research plan, your budget justification, your CVs for your key personnel. So most of that is done offline and not in OKGrants. So again, you can work on that at any point and then upload it at your convenience. Oh, one thing that I should point out about these required attachments. So you'll see here that you've got 3 different upload boxes. I did not mention this, but on the project information page, you have a radio button for resubmission. If your project is a resubmission, you're going to click yes, you're going to put in your previous project number, and then on the required attachments page, although it doesn't have a red asterisk, this will be a required upload. So if you have an error when you try to save this page telling you that you need to upload a resubmission index file, please go back to your project information page and make sure that you have not checked resubmission if you don't intend for this project to be a resubmission. Otherwise, if you click yes on resubmission, you will be required to upload this document here. If you are resubmitting a project that you filled out last year in OKGrants, that's where you will use the create full print version from the Access Management tool. If you have any problems generating that print version of your application, please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to help you out with that in any way I can. Also, on the additional required attachments here, an important thing to note is that this is one single file. So once you go and look at your solicitation, we've done something a little bit different. Let me pull up the solicitation for you. On your solicitation, we have broken up the required attachments into 2 main sections. The first is the research plan. So what that means is you guys are going to fill out your research plan in Word or whatever you choose to use, and you're going to upload that as a standalone document. The research plan will then be uploaded into OKGrants right here in this first field. That one's pretty self-explanatory. For the additional required attachments field, what we've done here is we've combined everything else that you're accustomed to filling out as a separate document into one document. So this additional required attachments upload field is actually going to consist of several different things. So your budget justification, your bio sketches for your key personnel, any of your literature, all of that extra information that you're used to filling out, that's all going to have to be combined into one document. Again, we don't care if it's a Word document, if it's PDFs that are merged into one. does not matter. The important thing to realize that is, again, one single document here. So if you were to upload your budget justification and then try to go and upload, a PDF for your CVs or something, whatever subsequent documents you upload, they're going to overwrite the original document that was uploaded here. So last year, if you filled out an application in OKGrants, everything was separate. We had like 11, 12 different upload fields here. One for budget justification, one for BioSketch, one for CV, one for literature cited, all of that. So this is different. I hope that it's not troublesome to do it this way. If you have any problems merging your documents into one, particularly if you're using PDFs, please let me know as soon as possible and I can help you out with that. This merging everything into one document made it a lot easier for the reviewers, and really it makes it a lot easier for you guys when you go to create a full print version. Unfortunately, with the print versions, it doesn't pull in the PDFs that are uploaded here, so that meant that you guys were having to create a print version of the forms in OKGrants and then go and download each one of the individual files too. So on this page last year, you had to download 12 additional files. So hopefully this is easier. Again, please feel free to send feedback as you work through it, and we're happy to look at any other changes in years going forward. So those are just a few notes about these required attachments pages. Have a couple of questions here. On the budget pages, we have a section for salaries for personnel, and somebody has asked, is it correct that a PI cannot receive a salary? It is correct that a PI cannot receive a salary if that PI is a full-time professor or the equivalent of a full-time professor. That is in your solicitation right here. Money from the Health Research Fund may not be used to replace or augment any part of the salary of a full-time faculty member. I said full-time professor, full-time faculty member at any Oklahoma college or university or the equivalent of. So if you have any questions as to whether you are considered a full-time faculty member, please contact your, I suppose it would be your research administrator would be able to help you out with that. But this is a statutory requirement. It is not something that we made up. So no salary for full-time faculty. Basically, that equates to no salary for PIs. I cannot think of an instance in which a PI was ever able to take a salary. I would say probably 99% of our PIs are considered full-time faculty. But that's not to say it can't happen. So again, please just make sure that you, if you are requesting salary, that you are not considered a full-time faculty member or the equivalent of a full-time faculty member. I have another question about correspondence that a PI will receive between submission and review. So once your application is submitted, like I said, you and your research administrator will get an email telling you that you have successfully submitted your application. But beyond that, there will not be any correspondence unless OCAST does something offline. If we need to let you know something offline or whatever, we'll contact you certainly, outside of OKGrants. If you are interested in finding out when or how you will get your results, once the OSTRAD board, OCAST governing board, meets after the review and awards have been announced, you will get an automatic email from OKGrants letting you know, A, if you were funded or if we didn't have enough money or if you weren't approved for funding, and B, that your evaluations are available for review. So there will be quite a bit of radio silence probably between submission and notification of award. That's normal. Again, if you have any concerns or anything, please feel free to give me a call. But there will not be anything else from OKGrants or OCAST unless a special circumstance arises. But you will, like I said, get an automatic email once the awards are made. You will also get a more personalized email from Mark Ballard, our contract official, once the awards are announced and if you were approved. Here's another question. If you add a writer, do they need to have a separate login account from the agency administrator? That is an excellent question. Yes, for every role that a user has, they do have to have a separate login. This typically doesn't come up a lot in the university setting, but it is a frequent occurrence at a business that people will have multiple roles. So if you want to serve as both the PI and the administrator for your contract, which is totally okay, you will have to have separate logins. So that can be a bit of a hassle, but it's the only way that the system can handle the different permissions that are associated with each login. So great question. Yes, separate login for each role. Another question, if the project is funded, the target contract start date, is the target contract start date the earliest the funds would be made available? Yes, for the most part. Okay, so application deadline is March 26th. The awards are scheduled to be announced, looking at my calendar, around June 19th or so. That is subject to change slightly, but I think that we're pretty locked in at around June 19th. And then the target contract start date is scheduled for October 1st. I don't want to say that, that's absolutely when funds will be made available. There is almost always an opportunity to perhaps start your contract earlier or later, depending on your unique circumstances. If that's something that you would like to address, you can always talk to Mark Ballard. Again, he is our contract manager here at OCAST. Sometimes he can get a contract started early if all required documents are in on time. Sometimes he can allow a contract to start late if the situation warrants it. So that is an option. For the most part, everybody should start on October 1st. We do always only start contracts on the 1st of the month, so we can't start in the middle of the month, unfortunately. But again, if you have a special circumstance or you want to ask about anything related to manipulating contract start times, you can contact me and I can put you in touch with Mark, or you can talk to Mark directly and he'll be happy to let you know what, if anything, he can do. Once your application is submitted, like I said, you can't change anything about it. You can view it at any point during the review process. You won't be able to view your evaluations until the review is complete and the awards have been announced in June, but you can log in at any time and access your application. So don't worry that anything ever gets hidden from you in terms of your application. You can print your application at any time. So that is always available to you. I mentioned that you cannot, as a PI, see the applications from the other PIs of your organization. So you don't have to worry that a collaborator or a competitor, perhaps, or somebody else might be able to see your work. It is only visible to you and your research administrator or anybody that you've added to your project, like a writer. But it's not just in general visible to everybody. Similarly, these projects are not searchable or visible to the public. You do have to have a login and be associated with an approved organization in order to get into OKGrants. That being said, we are a state agency, so certainly anything that is submitted to us could possibly be made public if it doesn't contain proprietary information, so be aware of that. I'm sure you all know that. Let's see. What else? Does anybody have any other questions, anything that I skipped over or went too quickly through? Again, you may have your phone on mute, so feel free to unmute and shout out if you have any questions, or type in a question via the chat box. I'm sorry, I was getting a phone call. So I have another question. What roles can view evaluations, and where do they find that information? That is a great question. You can, research administrators, writers, and authorized officials can view the evaluations. I take that the financial officers can too view the evaluations. You will be able to view evaluations. This is going to be a bad example, I think. You will be able to view your evaluations once you go to your application that's in contract executed status or awarded or whatever. Once you get to a status that is past application submitted, then you will be able to view your evaluations. In order to do that, you'll navigate to your application and scroll down at the bottom of your application menu, and you'll see these forms down here. You have a section called Review. You will see forms that are called Review Form 1, 2, and 3, and Panel Summary, and they'll all say Subgrantee at the end. Subgrantees are what the developers refer to as the users. So you'll be able to open up these forms, and you'll see what it is the reviewer filled out. This information will not be blank. So say your name, your project title, your organization, and then it will have the narrative or the text information that the reviewers had entered for each of these criteria. And you'll have, so all this will be filled out with comments that you'll be able to see. You can print these evaluations at any time. And again, these will be available anytime after application submitted status. One thing to point out about this review section where you have your evaluation forms, you will see 3 review forms. Probably 99% of you will only have 2 forms that are filled out. Please don't worry, that's not a problem. This review form 3 is available in case we do have to add a 3rd reviewer to your project. If you are in a very specialized area where we required a 3rd reviewer or somebody, really that's the only instance when we would need a 3rd reviewer, is if you're in such a specialized area that we had to bring in somebody additional to the 2 primary reviewers. That would be when you would have a review form 3. So please don't worry. This form will show up. It will be blank. Well, it's going to look exactly like the other form. It will be blank. Not a problem if you see that. You will also see your panel summary form. This is the form that opens slowly that all of the reviewers fill out at the actual review session. So these review forms 1 and 2, which will be filled out for you, these are filled out by the individual reviewers on their own prior to coming to Oklahoma City. So each reviewer will fill out their own form independent of one another without seeing each other's forms. So there may be some differing views on both of them, but our hope is that those views will be sort of mediated here on this panel summary form. There should be comments on your panel summary form that specifically state why, if one reviewer gave you an excellent and one reviewer gave you a fair, the panel summary form should state how a conclusion was an overall conclusion was reached by the entire panel. So everybody will have at least 3 forms, a 1, a 2, and a summary. Again, those are viewable to everybody on the application by scrolling down at the bottom of their forms menu. Yeah, that's the question. Any other questions? Trying to think of what else I might miss. There's lots of other functionality in OKGrants, particularly in regards to post-award type of stuff. So once you have an award in OKGrants, the life of that contract will be managed online. So if you are awarded for health research, your subsequent progress reports and requests for payment and contract modifications will all be submitted online as well. So you will have access to view that information or those forms once you are awarded on OKGrants. Your administrators will be able to fill out requests for payment and contract modifications, and you'll be able to see any of that information. The goal of OCAST and the state as a whole is to move everything that we possibly can to an electronic format. So you will, for administrators in particular, if you have projects that are managed offline right now, say an older ORS or intern or health award, those will be managed still in a paper process. However, everything going forward that is initiated in OKGrants will be managed completely in OKGrants. So we hope, we're building it, we're trying to build it out to be a pretty robust system that can handle everything. It is certainly still, we feel like it's a fairly good work in progress, but we're always making tweaks and changes to make it easier for everybody. So like I said, I cannot emphasize enough, please let me know if you have suggestions, or even if you don't have a suggestion, you just have a complaint, please let me know. We're always working to make it better. I want to make it easier for you guys. Since we're required to do this, we want to make it as user-friendly as humanly possible. So please feel free to be as honest as you can about the system. You do have, up here in the top right corner, there's a My Training Materials link. This is where you can access the OCAST user manual. This is, I want to say it's like 40-odd pages. This is a full user manual that takes you through how to do everything you could think of in OKGrants. So you can access that at any time, again, via the My Training Materials. Again, you have your quick start or your quick reference guide on the OCAST website. You have a solicitation on the OCAST website. You have me. You can call at any point or email at any point. We can do a webinar at any point. I'm happy to come and sit with you if I need to. If you want to show me something that's just not working, I'm happy to come and sit with you, or you know, have you over. We can do whatever you want to make this easy for you. Let's see. Any other questions or concerns or anything? Any questions about the health program in general, not necessarily about OKGrants? We did make a couple of changes to the help solicitation this year. One that I think that everybody will benefit from. In the past, we have allowed only letters of, we've allowed letters of support for PIs who are more junior. This year, we've opened up the letter. You are able to submit basically any type of letter that you could want to submit in support of your project. So we aren't limiting. You know, in the past, we didn't require letters of support from collaborators or anything like that. We in fact told you, please don't submit those because they're not requested. But now you can submit any sort of letters of recommendation or support that you might like. That change is right here on item 6, page 11 in the solicitation. So hopefully that's a benefit to everybody. We like to think that more information is beneficial for you guys and for the reviewers as well. I did record this today, so hopefully it shows that it's still recording. Hopefully we'll be able to get it cleaned up and put on the website, or at least available for email if anybody needs it. We'll have to see how that works, but that is the plan, to be able to save this on the OCAST website for anybody to access it if they like. Let's see. Any other questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Anything at all? Well, if there are no other questions, I do want to point out that ORS and Intern and Basic Plant Science will all be going live in OKGrants in the next 2 or so weeks. That's the target go-live date for those projects. They will be managed online as well, so everything is now all in OKGrants. We hope that it's a fairly easy and painless process for you guys, but again, we're available anytime. We have a new person here at OCAST who you may have all met when I was out on maternity leave. Her name is Laura Soul-Smith, and she is learning OKGrants, and she's doing a great job. So you now have 2 of us. If you want to, vent or have us out or whatever, we are now both available all the time. So please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. My contact information is on the home page of OKGrants. It's also all over the OCAST website. And you all did receive an email from me about this webinar. So please feel free to reach out anytime. The deadline, as I mentioned, is 5 o'clock on March 26th. I encourage you to be in touch with your research administrators early and often so as not to bombard them with requests for submission at the very last minute, because again, they are the last ones who have to submit. So you're sort of at their mercy as a PI. So just want to point that out. They are going to be your friends throughout this entire process. So If there are no other questions, I thank you guys for participating today. Again, any questions or anything, please feel free to give us a call. All right. Thank you guys very much.